Hello, 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 fellow readers, and welcome back to my blog, One Lollipop Life. Today I want to talk to you about the books that I am most looking forward to that are coming out in September. These are not necessarily on my September TBR list. It's just books that I've starred that interest me that will go on my TBR list, but not necessarily for September. I'll eventually get to them. So one of the first ones is a debut novel. It is by Cassandra Montague, and it comes out September 3rd, and it's called After the Flood. And this is, I'm not sure if I'd call it general fiction or if I would call it speculative fiction, but the premise interests me. It takes place about 100 years in the future, according to the blurb. Follows a mother and a daughter. The earth has been overtaken by floodwaters, and the only thing that remains are mountaintops and mountaintop colonies. So some folks have taken to living on the water in boats and whatnot. And one of those is a woman called Myra, and she has a 7-year-old daughter whose name is Pearl, and they live off a small boat and they fish. The boat's called Bird, and they fish, and they only visit dry land to trade. Well, Myra had another daughter, Ro, and Ro has been missing since the floods, I'm not sure if it's for the floods, but she's been missing for 7 years. And Myra has a confrontation with someone on a dry land, and it becomes clear during that confrontation that Ro has actually been seen in a far off encampment near the Arctic Circle. So apparently Myra is usually full of caution and common sense, but she throws this all aside to go searching for her daughter, Ro. And Myra and Pearl take off on a adventure, a voyage, I guess is a better word, across the northern seas, hoping against hope that they can find Ro. They join forces with a larger ship while they're on their journey, and bond. They bond with folks, and they start making friends and relationships. Sounds like some things go wrong. Secrets come to surface, lust, betrayals, they all threaten their dreams. And after their fortunes take a twisty turn, I don't know what that is, Myra can no longer ignore whether it's worth taking this risk, endangering herself and Pearl to go find Ro. So, and not just her and herself, but also fellow travelers that she's with. So this one looks really interesting to me. I am looking forward to it. It is a debut novel, and I love supporting debut authors. My next one, it's another general fiction. It's called, well, it could actually be speculative fiction too. So I don't consider it science fiction, so I left it in the general fiction category. But it's called Torus by Carolina de Robertis. And this takes place in Uruguay. It's 1977. The country is under military dictatorship. Groups of 5 or more people can't gather in private spaces without a permit. And while homosexuality isn't outwardly outlawed, if you are found out to be a homosexual man or woman, you are automatically subject to a prison sentence. So it might as well be outrightly outlawed. Under these dire straits, 5 women go on an excursion to an isolated beach where they can just be themselves. They call themselves cantoras, or women who sing, and it's a code name for lesbian. The book follows these 5 women over 35 years, charting their fortunes of the women as they fall in and out of love, navigate the tumultuous politics of Uruguay. And my understanding is it's written in beautiful prose. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's not one that's getting a lot of buzz, but it looks very interesting to me. So we'll jump into mystery thriller. So I'm excited about this next one. It is Attica Locke and her follow-up to Bluebird, and it's called Heaven My Home. And it is set soon after the 2016 elections. 9-year-old Levi King has gone missing, and the police suspect his family of white supremacists might finally be pinned down if they can figure out where that boy is. We have Texas Ranger Darren Matthews, who was in Bluebird, whose previous escapades have driven him to alcoholism, almost ruined his marriage, that sort of stuff. So I am really looking forward to this one as well. I am planning on reading Bluebird this month in September, and it was anticipation of Heaven My Home coming out. Nonfiction, I am looking forward. This is probably the one book I'm looking forward to the most in the month of September, and so much so that I will probably buy it and I will probably read it this September. And that is The Only Plane in the Sky, An Oral History of 9/11 by Garrett Graft. This one comes out September 10th. I was a brand new mom during 9/11. We were building a house and had just sold our condo, so we were actually living in a hotel room at the time of 9/11. And it was just really weird to be going through this very tumultuous time and not having a home. Those of us in my age demographic, and even a little bit younger and obviously older, probably remember very distinctly where they were when 9/11 happened. If you were in elementary school, you probably remember, lower elementary school, you probably remember some brief touchings on it, appropriate for elementary school age. But what looks interesting about this book, and what has made me scramble to want to read it, is it is told through people who lived it. So whether that is through interviews with actual people who lived it, whether it's first responders, people that were in the towers, people that were in the Pentagon, whether it's transcripts from the planes that went down, whether it's some declassified documents that have been declassified that the author used, is actually told through the people who lived it. And we've had some great 9/11 books out, but they've all been not from the point of view of folks that lived through it. I'm trying to think. I have notes. I actually have notes of some of the books that were out. We had from Lawrence Wright, The Looming Tower, which traced the birth and rise of Al Qaeda to and then we've had the 9/11 Commission Report, which was the government's factual retrospective of the attacks. But again, we've missed that account that's told by the people who lived it. So I'm really looking forward to The Only Plane in the Sky, An Oral History of 9/11. We'll move to true crime. There is a true crime book coming out that I'm really interested in reading. I think it's told from a perspective I've never thought of before, and actually I've never even read about before. Like, I know there's books out there about by forensic scientists who work on crime scenes and cases, but I've not read one. And this one is called The Nature of Life and Death, Everybody Leaves a Trace by Patricia Wiltshire. And I did not know what day it was coming out. Sometime in September, probably the 17th, I'm guessing. This is a blend of science writing and nature writing. It's basically Patricia draws on her expertise and explores the valuable but often shocking interface between crime and nature. Things like mud tracks on a quiet country road, dirt specks on the soles of walking boots. Patricia Wiltshire, who's a forensic ecologist, uses her decades of scientific expertise to find often overlooked clues. She detects evidence, eliminates hypotheses, exonerates folks. My understanding is she's one of the most sought out and desired police consultants in the world, and her curiosity, humility, and passion for the truth have guided her every step of the way while developing a compelling thesis of the who, what, when of a crime and the how of a crime. Apparently, she introduces us to the unseen world all around us and underneath our feet: plants, animals, pollen, spores, fungi, and microbes that we move through every day. Her story is a testament to the power of persistence and reveals how our relationship with the vast natural world reaches far deeper than what we might think. So that's Nature of Life and Death, Everybody Leaves a Trace by Patricia Wiltshire. Moving into science fiction, which, as I mentioned before, science fiction is not always my favorite or first go-to, but I am trying to branch out and read more diversely, even in genres. And one science fiction title that caught my eye that's coming out September 24th is The Future of Another Timeline by Annalee Newitz. It looks like we start in 1992, and apparently there's a confrontation at a concert, and 17-year-old Beth finds herself in a car with her friend's abusive boyfriend dead in the backseat. Agreeing to help her friends hide the body, This murder sets Beth and her friends on a path of escalating violence and vengeance as they realize many other young women in the world need protecting too. Then we jump to 2022 and a character, Tess, who is determined to use time travel to create a safer future. Apparently, Tess and Beth's lives cross during this time travel story. There's a war that breaks out. There's a war that war actually threatens time travel and leaves only a small group of elites with the power to shape past, present, and future. So that one looks interesting to me. I do enjoy a time travel story. Even if science fiction isn't my favorite, I have enjoyed some time travel stories in the past. So I'm looking forward to that one. My next category is science, and the title that I'm looking forward to comes out again on September 24th, and it's just Short Philosophy of Birds by Elise Rousseau. And what attracted me to this, I had just listened to a podcast, and I can't remember which one it is, otherwise I'd mention it. And one of the readers that was on the guest that was on the podcast had mentioned a book that she really enjoyed, and I think it was called The Conscience of Birds, and how that really changed her perception of birds and led her to literally make friends with the crows, the birds, especially the crows in the neighborhood. And she threw out some facts about birds that I didn't know, and crows that I didn't know. And then, if you recall, I've mentioned several times, if you've listened to any of my other videos, one of my favorite books this year has been How to Be a Good Creature, which is a memoir told in 14 animals. And this book apparently is a collection of 22 short lessons inspired by Secret Lives of Birds. And the blurb basically says there's a lot we can learn from birds if we pay attention. And the book invites us to step back from our busy lives to reconnect with nature and to listen to the tiny philosophers of the sky. And one of the things that I'm trying to do more of this year is to really cultivate that sense of wonder and awe in the world. That's one of the things that I know makes me happy. It's one of the things that I miss the most about being in Georgia is the outdoors and the nature that is so abundant. I lived in the mountains of Georgia. I do not live in a location that has an abundance of nature. I'm in a very urban area. So this appealed to that aspect of my happiness, is a way maybe to reconnect with nature. I do have a bird feeder outside, and the birds come, and I love watching them. So I'm hoping, that I'll learn a little bit. I'm actually going to pick up that other book that I heard on that podcast because it really interests me. Those are the 8 books I am looking most forward to that are being released in September. No, I don't plan on reading them all in September. There are some months I don't look forward to any books, but they will go on my TBR list, and I prioritize books that go on my TBR list as definitely maybe, and if I get around to it. So those will go on my TBR list, and they'll be prioritized, and I'm hoping I get to read them, and hopefully I can follow up with reviews on them as I read them. I would love it if you would comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.